I'm Frank Vaughn. It's September 23rd, 2025, and I didn't even have time to let my hair fully dry this morning before I came to this video. This is a wheat from the chaff moment. If you're dedicated to the truth and you're not some kind of partisan hack, then this is the story that you should be telling, because nothing that we see in terms of ballistic evidence supports Tyler Robinson as the lone shooter. It could have been a patsy, but it wasn't his bullet that hit Charlie Kirk. Now, if that offends you, have the courage to at least watch. You can be a coward and you can hide behind your official narratives all you want, because it's easy. It's easy. It won't affect your bottom line. It's easy to just go along to get along. Mass formation psychosis is a thing that occurs on the right and on the left. And we're in the middle of it. And this is, people want me to talk about other things, but we are at an inflection point. If the Trump administration, if Kash Patel, if Dan Bongino, if they don't actually overturn this narrative, then all hope is lost. Now, fair warning, this isn't going to be super graphic, but it's going to be somewhat graphic. But you need to understand, you have to see this. Look, the truth is in front of your eyes. So I'm going to play this, and I'm going to show you why. This is it. This is the smoking gun evidence. There's actually two pieces. This is the first part. You will see, they say that this splatter, there's splatter that comes up above. That is not his necklace. That's the entry wound. And if you look down, you can actually see how the skin deforms in the bottom right corner, how it blows out. You can see the fucking exit wound. It's right there in front of your face. It's an exit wound. The impact hits his head. It exits his neck. It's coming from the right and down. And we have the muzzle flash. Now, I know I said the muzzle flash. Maybe there's more. This is just one. Watch on screen. Do you see that? Coming from the perfect direction that lines up with the video I just shown you, which is clearly that Charlie's neck deforms outwards and the bullet pops out and the blood splatter goes that way. It doesn't go backwards. There's no way in the nine hells that a 30-06 round did that from the front. It's impossible. And yet, this is what I get. Void, long-time follower. Nothing personal, buddy, but you're symbolic of the response. I think you're on your own with this one. I'm sure that's what he meant. Frank, I'll be on my own. Fact is, I'm not. There are people out there telling the truth and unafraid to tell the truth, or at least try to find it. I'm telling you the truth of what I've seen. Is it just a coincidence? Is it just divine coincidence that there happens to be a muzzle flash or something that could be a muzzle flash at the exact same moment that Charlie Kirk gets shot? And then it comes from the exact position up and to the right, consistent with an entry wound behind the ear and an exit wound through the neck. We don't know the round. We can speculate on what kind of round, but it sure as hell wasn't a 30-06 from the front. It's ridiculous. And so the reason this is so important, and the reason that I haven't talked about much else, and I haven't thought about much else for the last week, to be completely honest, even while I wasn't making video. I've been waiting. I've been watching. I've been teasing apart the official story. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good work out there. So there's details and things that I probably don't even need to talk about, because this is the thing. The ballistics don't lie. And people who are familiar with firearms, ballistics experts, have looked at this painstakingly and know that the official story, as it stands right now, is inconsistent with what the facts on the ground actually are. And this is a big test. We just went through the Epstein thing. The Trump administration seems to be keen to cover up everything to do with Epstein, to the point where Maxwell might actually get some kind of plea deal. She might actually get a pardon. We're covering up a man who was nobody, gets hired without a formal education by the father of Bill Barr, who actually was tasked with overseeing the investigation into Epstein's death. Like, there's so many. Void. Nothing personal, man. But you are symbolic of some of the responses that I'm getting. I think you're on your own with this one, Frank, is what I think you meant. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter how often I've been honest with you over the years, how often I've spotted trends before they happen. We talked about COVID in December of 2019 and what was going to happen. I didn't know everything. I didn't know everything then. I just knew something was coming. And that when the government got their hands on it, it was going to be a nightmare. And I just tried to warn everybody about everything that I could see. I tried to warn them about the possibilities. And that's the same thing that I'm doing here. Ballistics don't lie. A 30-06 round from the front didn't do what you just saw. And is it just a coincidence? Is it just some kind of divine alignment that there happens to be something that could be a muzzle flash at the exact same moment a bullet takes Charlie Kirk's life? That you can clearly see blood splatter, which they're saying is a necklace, which is just an absolute joke of an explanation. Blood splatter consistent with an entry wound and a clearly defined exit wound on the other side. His face, his neck, everything deforms. And I know that is challenging for a lot of people because you have your narratives, you have your hopes, you have your faith. You've placed your faith in men. That's the biggest mistake you could possibly do. No faith for Trump. No faith for Polyev. No faith for any politician. Trust, maybe. Verify, absolutely. Many people are failing in that task right now. And I don't know who. I have no idea. Probably some kind of special forces or deep state operation. I don't know who. There's a lot of people who had motives or motivation to get rid of this guy. He was a direct threat to power. He was unbuyable. He couldn't be blackmailed. He was as clean as it gets. And someone clearly thought, a group of someone's, because this is not a lone gunman. It's implausible. Robinson could have been in on it as the setup guy. He might even know he's the setup guy. I don't know. I don't really want to speculate. But what I am delivering to you now is that we are at an inflection point. We just went through this Epstein stuff where they're desperately trying to disappear this guy from public view, a guy who was nobody, no formal education. Gets hired by the father of Bill Barr, who subsequently went on to oversee a key part of the Epstein story, given a job at a prestigious school without formal education, gets fired for sexual harassment, probably procuring teenage girls because that's what he did. And then he goes on to become a multi-billionaire with owning islands in the Caribbean, flying people back and forth, trafficking in children. And the Trump administration seems to be keen to just cover it up and they don't want to talk about it. There's some very worrying signs. And that's what it's been up to this point, worrying signs. But this one's clear. Kash Patel, Bongino, Donald Trump, are they actually interested in getting to the bottom of this? Or is this just a narrative to deconstruct the left? The left is extreme. Now, admittedly, the media and social media likes to show us the extremities, likes to show us the extreme, to keep us divided and to keep us angry. But there's no doubt at all, political violence and violent ideology is rooted on the left far more strongly than on the right. The response, what if the objective, and this is just a what if, but what if the objective of this operation was to get the right to engage in reprisals, which they failed to do? The left and the right, good and evil, whatever you want to call it. It's built differently in this time. But the key here is a lot of people vested a lot of hope in the Trump administration to do some things differently, and in many regards, they are. However, this is a litmus test. Are they going to find the truth? Are they going to tell the full story? Or are we going with the lone gunman, deranged leftist lunatic who somehow fired a 30-06 round that was just magically found in his neck? Look, you know what? I'll show you this because it's absolutely crazy. Turning Point USA came out with the statement that Charlie Kirk's body was miraculous, that God made his bones so strong that it stopped a 30-06 round dead in its tracks and left it there perfectly in his neck for the coroner to find. I get that it's this guy's job. He's a PR guy. He's got to put out whatever Turning Point thinks needs to come out. But this idea that God reached down and divinely imbued Charlie Kirk's bones and cartilage with miraculous properties to save lives that could have otherwise been lost by a round that passed all the way through is the peak of nonsense, and it's blasphemy. It is absolutely blasphemy to call on him, to invoke him, to eliminate ballistics evidence. This isn't 1963 anymore. We've got camera angles. We've got people who were there. We've got video on all of it. We've got 100 different angles. It's so clear. Entry, exit. You see the skin blow out. You see the reaction of the body. Void, why are you in denial? Why are people like Void in denial? Why are influencers not looking at this? And I know the answer. It takes bravery. It really does. To actually look at these things. It might actually affect your business model. And that's tough. But I'll tell you, this is it. If the Trump administration goes with this narrative, if Kash Patel's FBI goes with this narrative, if there's no further developments and they just move on towards various political objectives, I don't disagree with their actions on Antifa. I don't disagree with their actions on the far left, but I will say the idea that the left is engaged in hate speech or that there's a certain type of speech that needs to be outlawed and the right dictates what that speech is, the speech that's to be outlawed is, that is absolutely anathema to what Charlie Kirk stood for. That man was 100% all about the conversation. He was all about free speech. He was all about debate. And I keep seeing this come up as well. People keep invoking a plate vest and some kind of protective vest that he was wearing. It's already been confirmed that there was no vest. Charlie Kirk refused to wear one. I think he wanted to walk in the steps of Jesus. He said as much as he said as much, which means depending on God for your defenses. I don't know what the divine plan is. I just know there's evil forces at work in this world. I know that Charlie Kirk's legacy is being fought over right now. It's being claimed by various forces who are trying to engineer a particular direction for that legacy, a direction for his work that's probably, in my approximation, going to diverge greatly from what Charlie Kirk would have done in the first place. And I'm not implicating anybody. I'm just saying that's what this is. This is a fight over his legacy. But the bottom line, where the buck stops, is what you've seen at the beginning of this video. I don't need to show you anymore. It's very simple. Nothing that you see can be explained by a 30-06 in any way possible. And one more thing about that Turning Point release about Charlie's miracle bones and cartilage being imbued by God to stop a bullet, to save other lives. On the face of it, it's just an absurd story. But the fact of the matter is, a 30-06 fired from that distance is going to transfer a ton of kinetic force to the impact site. So let's assume that his bones really were dense enough by some miracle of God to stop that bullet and leave it in his neck. There would still be the transfer of kinetic force from the bullet to the body. He would have shot backwards if he was strong enough to stop the bullet. There would have been a much bigger impact. But I guess you could also say that God himself stepped in to blunt the force of that bullet's impact. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? God designed the universe. He designed the world. He designed physics. The ballistics don't lie. It's all staring us right in the face. And I really hope we get answers. And the fact is, I really hope that many more influencers look at this stuff and start asking appropriate questions and putting the pressure on the Trump administration to hopefully get to the bottom of this. Because if they don't, when you combine it in tandem with the Epstein stuff, And without going off into unrelated directions and unrelated tangents, it's very clear that the United States has just witnessed another high-profile political assassination where we are told it's a lone gunman, one crazed lunatic, but everything, all the evidence tells us otherwise. It's right there in front of your face. And if you can't contend with that, your dedication to being different, your dedication to being an alternative to the mainstream media, your dedication to the truth, because there's a lot of, the mainstream media is spinning up all kinds of narratives, all kinds of distraction chicken, as Ricky would say in Trailer Park Boys, or Bubbles. I actually think it was Bubbles who said it, distraction chicken, all over the place. But what we're looking at, what's staring us in the face, is the evidence of our eyes, the evidence of physics. Trigonometry doesn't lie. Math doesn't lie. Acoustics don't lie. People are invoking a bullet that was loaded with, less grains of powder, and to perfectly, like almost like a hole in one on a golf course, to like perfectly place that bullet and leave it in the neck, even though the force of the impact itself reveals the lie of that theory. That the guy just didn't know what he was doing. He loaded the round wrong. It's just, why are we invoking all of this magic? We can see something else is going on. And if you really are an alternative, and if you're really interested in pursuing the truth, here's your mission.